Good afternoon. Paul Wiedefeld, Secretary of Transportation. Thank you for inviting us to do a presentation of the Consolidated Transportation Program, more commonly known as the CT. Some of our priorities, the administration priority, and then the department's priorities, and then I'll turn it over to the different administrators and representatives of the modes to give an update on both their modes and also projects in Prince George's County. At Maryland Department of Transportation, the governor's made very clear that we're to work with partnership and in transparency in all of our dealings throughout the state. We are looking forward to that. It's something I think we do very well. The governor's focus and our focus is on social equity, environmental protection, and sustainable communities. But most importantly is to build out physical mobility, but not only for just moving the individual or the equipment, but also for economic mobility to lift everyone in all communities throughout the state of Maryland. From a DOT perspective, we have three major priorities. Obviously, the first and foremost is safety of our employees and safety of all the users that use our system. The department is committed to Vision Zero. Chrissy Nizer from MVA will be talking a bit more about that, which is basically reduce deaths on their highway system to zero by 2030. I have charged the department to take a fresh look at some of our regulations, our policies, and some of our designs to make sure we're doing everything we can to prevent any fatalities. I've also directed the team to take a look at the complete streets policy that we have in place. It's been in place for over 11 years, and to make sure we're taking a hard look at that to see if there's other things we can do to protect particularly pedestrians and bicyclists. The second priority for the department is system preservation. We have a multi-billion-dollar investment in the state through all modes of transportation, so we want to make sure that we're protecting that investment and not paying a future cost for that at a higher price. And then third is to enhance the system where appropriate. So we're providing investments in projects like I-95, I-495, and Medical Center Drive interchange to support economic development to improve access to planned growth and employment corridors there. This economic access must extend beyond signal occupants drivers only, though. We must look at every project as a multimodal opportunity to benefit pedestrians and bicyclists and make every connection we can to promote transit and ride sharing. For example, we're moving aggressively to complete the Purple Line, which you hear a little bit more about from Liz, while we're also moving forward with the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project, and we started discussions to expand MARC train service into Virginia and to Delaware. We're also looking to work with other state agencies, local jurisdictions, and private sector to create inclusive economic opportunity and leveraging underutilized transit stations and turning them into unique community-focused transit-oriented developments. As I mentioned, we partnered with Medco and issued 2 requests for proposals, one of which to study TOD opportunities along the MARC Penn line, including Seabrook and Bowie stations. One other priority for us, obviously, in the changing world we live in is climate and climate change, and making sure that we're building our facilities and maintaining our facilities for the resiliency that we need to have in our system. I also want to talk a little bit about the equity and disparity study that we have underway. As we work to build a more equitable transportation network, we're also working towards making Maryland a more equitable state for everyone to do business. MDOT is conducting the state's latest disparity study, where the purpose is to determine whether and to what extent discrimination impacts businesses in the Maryland marketplace. We need your help in spreading the word to all businesses, including small, minority, and disadvantaged businesses, to engage in this ongoing study. Currently, you can do so by going online to stateofmddisparitystudy.com and taking our survey. Participation is critical in assisting the state in its efforts to achieve a level playing field for all businesses across the state. Let me turn now to talking a bit about the program itself. The department's under tremendous financial pressure. It's creating and maintaining a system, as you can imagine, has a lot of investment to be made, tremendous investment, and we've got to compete both locally, regionally, and internationally. Frankly, we need to invest at a higher level to meet these competitive needs that we have and to meet all the demands that are being asked of us. We have tremendous pressures under the department, financial pressures. One of the biggest ones, obviously, the county is also experiencing is historic inflation and impact on labor and materials that has driven. The using up of the COVID dollars, the COVID relief funds that the state was fortunate to get, over $2 billion. Those dollars are drying up. We're also impacted by the sustainability of the motor fuel tax as cars become more efficient from a trust fund perspective that hits the bottom line. Just over 20% of our revenues in the trust fund come from motor fuel tax. So as cars become more efficient, obviously that impacts that. Titling tax, similar case as well. Cars are much more efficient and last longer, but that also impacts us from a revenue side. So that's another pressure point that we have. Fortunately, with President Biden and the bipartisan infrastructure law, we've been able to pull down a number of federal dollars, both in formula and discretionary. But the threat is if we don't have the state dollars to match those, to bring those dollars down, particularly as we compete for discretionary dollars across the country. The realities of some of these financial pressures are found in the CTP that we're presenting today. The overall program, a 6-year program, is $21.2 billion to cover us from 24 through 29, but it's not fully funded. We have a shortfall of roughly $2.1 billion in the program, starting in fiscal year 25 and continuing to grow throughout the rest of the program. And that is only to produce the existing program, not some of the other pressures and other demands that have been asked from the department. In the past, the department would have made those cuts and delivered them to, in effect, all the stakeholders. We've decided to take a different approach, I think, in terms of transparency and partnership, and basically to work with stakeholders to basically work through how do we deal with this issue. One thing that the General Assembly has done to address this issue is they established a Commission on Transportation Revenue and Infrastructure Needs. The commission is composed of roughly 30 individuals, a range of stakeholders at the table, and they are due to have a report to the commission is due to have a report to the legislature on January 1st of 24, a draft, and a final by the next year. So with that as a large, broad overview, I will now turn it over to the various modes to give a presentation. First, let me turn it over to Liz at the Maryland Transit Administration.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Liz Gordon, and I'm the Assistant Deputy Administrator for Planning and Programming at the Maryland Transit Administration. I appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about what MTA is doing to support frequent, reliable, and easy-to-use transit throughout Maryland. Public transit is essential to ensuring economic and social mobility, addressing the climate crisis and needed reductions in carbon, as well as reducing congestion and promoting safer and healthier streets for our entire region. Maryland's investments in new transit infrastructure and maintaining our systems in a state of good repair will make a difference in people's lives throughout the state. I'd like to highlight a few of the exciting projects that are currently underway at MTA. Probably very familiar to you all is construction on the Purple Line, which is more than 58% complete, and underground utility relocation is more than 98% complete. Across the alignment, there are more than 60 active construction sites with approximately 1,100 workers. Along Veterans Parkway, the Glen Ridge Operation and Maintenance Facility is fully operational with yard utilities and specialty track installation underway. Purple Line light rail vehicles are expected to be delivered to Glen Ridge in early 2024. The Purple Line recently announced the next round of Community Advisory Team, or CAT meetings, which begin this evening. MTA is also advancing the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project, or SMRT, with the goal of providing high-capacity rapid transit service in the Maryland 5 US 301 corridor, relieving severe traffic congestion and gridlock. This is a major corridor for transportation between Prince George's and Charles counties that's seen continued growth in population and in economic opportunities. The project currently has $20 million allocated in state and federal funding, and MTA is working with Prince George's and Charles counties to finalize a memorandum of agreement to advance the project through the National Environmental Protection Act, or NEPA, process. On the commuter rail side, we're focused on MARC service expansion, which includes closing the MARC-SEPTA commuter rail gap and also providing run-through service to Virginia. We're also currently updating the MARC long-range plan, which will be taking place over the next year or so, and it'll outline major investments. MTA continues to support all of our locally operated transit services, which are critical partners in providing transit throughout the state. MTA makes a significant investment in transit in Prince George's County by providing nearly $13 million in operating and capital grants to support local transit options. Of the $13 million, nearly $12.3 million is for the operating budget and nearly $1 million is for the capital budget. These grants provide funding for small buses and heavy-duty buses and the rideshare program. Recently, the agency has undertaken a comprehensive review of the LOTS operating funding allocation formula, and I'm pleased to report that beginning in fiscal year 2025, funding will be adjusted so that the allocation distributions are more equitable and more responsive to changes in local jurisdictions' investment in transit service. This is just a small sample of the important work that's happening at MTA. We are committed to improving and growing transit throughout the region. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on this important work currently underway at the Maryland Transit Administration. I'd like to now pass it to Drew Morrison from the Washington Area Transit Office.
Thanks, Liz. I'm Drew Morrison, Acting Director of the Washington Area Transit Office, which oversees the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, WMATA, for MDOT. Hundreds of thousands of Marylanders rely on WMATA's services every day, which is why Secretary Wiedefeld includes Metro as one of MDOT's modes. WMATA is an integral part of Maryland's transportation system. Along with Virginia, DC, and the federal government, MDOT plays a major role in funding WMATA's three modes: Metro Rail, Metro Bus, and Metro Access. The majority of Maryland's funding to WMATA comes from the Transportation Trust Fund, and each year the state pays about $1 billion. That breaks down into $470 million for operating costs and $500 million for capital projects. Over the next 6 years, programmed into this draft CTP is more than $2.1 billion for WMATA's capital program. That includes the $167 million in dedicated funding from the state's general fund, and those dollars go towards helping to rebuild WMATA's system and bring it to a state of good repair, and these dollars have helped it to achieve its current state of high quality service. In current challenging news, WMATA is facing a $750 million fiscal cliff starting in fiscal year 2025. It recently laid out 3 strategies to address this cliff to its board of directors, and MDOT is currently coordinating with WMATA and our regional partners, including Prince George's County, to better understand our options to address this issue. As we look forward, we're very excited about transit-oriented development, as the Secretary mentioned. MDOT is supporting WMATA in transit-oriented development activities at metro stations across the county. Programmed into the draft CTP is $1 million per year in continued commitment to those planning efforts. Under this administration, with the department's Chief of Transit-Oriented Development, we're actively working with WMATA to move TOD forward. In this fiscal year alone, we're funding studies at Capitol Heights, Largo Town Center, Morgan Boulevard, and Southern Avenue, all here in Prince George's County. And we look forward to seeing how those projects can further support the Moore-Miller administration's goals to make transit a catalyst to lift neighborhoods, boost the economy, create jobs, and connect residents with opportunity. We're also an active participant as WMATA plans the future of its rail and bus systems. On the rail side, we're in an important moment. There are 2 ongoing studies. The Virginia Department of Transportation is looking at the future of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and WMATA is advancing its blue, orange, silver reliability and capacity study. And we know that extending the blue line over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge has been a priority for Prince George's County. We're looking with our partners toward a multimodal vision for this corridor. And we continue to partner with Prince George's County DPW&T on the better bus network as WMATA and Prince George's County look to the future of bus in the county, in the region, and throughout the state. So thank you for the time to outline MDOT's commitments to WMATA and a few of the projects we're particularly excited about. So I'll now turn over to Will Pines at the State Highway Administration.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Will Pines. It's great to be here with you this year, this time leading the State Highway Administration team. I'm just a few months in, but I'm really excited about SHA's future. Under my leadership, SHA will continue to advance infrastructure projects that will connect Marylanders to jobs and economic opportunities. Building and maintaining safe multimodal transportation systems for all users that are safe, equitable, and balanced, that is our goal. That means we're going to reimagine how highway networks support the needs of our communities, and we will be putting a greater focus on safety statewide. Because one life lost is one too many, we will hone in on all levels of safety, including asset, work zone, and vulnerable user safety. This spring, SHA released Maryland's first pedestrian safety action plan, or what we refer to as the PSAP, and that's a new data-driven tool to enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety for communities across the state. We're making significant investments to deliver PSAP projects, working with our new active transportation team along with our district offices. We're also taking a fresh look at organizational efficiency. I've asked the SHA team to focus on project delivery, permit approvals, and procurement timelines to look at opportunities to streamline the process while maintaining ethics and good processes in doing business. This will focus both on delivering SHA projects faster and conducting timely reviews and support for county and developer projects and permits. We recognize there are challenges ahead. That does not mean our goals have changed. We will continue to improve safety, accessibility, mobility, and a state of good repair. We have to be poised to leverage every available federal dollar to deliver as much as we can. This includes pursuing multiple federal grant opportunities. We will also continue working with you to deliver on local projects. Partnership with our local governments and communities is the key to all of our successes, and I'd like to highlight a few of those successes of our SHA projects over the last year. While we're here to talk about the CTP, I want to start by giving you an update on our efforts to address litter that are ongoing on our roadways. We've heard many feedback from state, local elected officials, as well as the community, and have made significant investments in cleaning up our roads. In February, SHA launched the Operation Clean Sweep Maryland program, which is targeted toward litter cleanup efforts, and that takes place several times a year in advance of high travel holidays. In addition to Operation Clean Sweep, we have increased our regular pickup frequencies and have increased the litter pickup budget. So far in 2023, we have collected nearly 280,000 bags of trash off of our roadways. We're working very hard to address litter challenges, but we need to work together to stop litter at its source. SHA has been actively trying to educate the public on the consequences of litter, including road hazards, dangers to the environment, and the impacts to community health. We can't do it alone and look forward to continuing our partnership with Prince George's County to address this important issue. Also, here in Prince George's County, SHA is working to complete the US 1 Rhode Island Avenue Trolley Trail in Hyattsville by the end of this year. The trail will serve as a vital link between Rhode Island Avenue Trolley Trail and the Anacostia Trivia Trail, offering increased connectivity and accessibility for the community. The nearly $8 million project includes a new 10-foot wide, half-mile long shared use path and buffer along the northbound US 1 route, creating a safe and separate zone for pedestrians and bicyclists. This separate bike lane on Maryland's state road system serves as a great example of our ongoing efforts to improve conditions for vulnerable users and deploy PSAP strategies. A long-awaited restart of the Maryland 4 Suitland Interchange Improvements Project was advertised this last month. Pause for there for a second because that's a pretty exciting one. This $285 million project seeks to address challenges posed by escalating traffic volumes, particularly during the peak hours, by constructing a diamond interchange, which is a county priority. Through road realignments, improved intersections, and advanced signaling systems, we're working to create an environment that promotes secure transit throughout the corridor. We look forward to creating an interchange that not only meets today's demands, but also paves the way for a safer and more sustainable future. And last month, Governor Moore announced more than $25 million in federal and state grants for 40 bicycle, pedestrian, and trail projects across Maryland. College Park was awarded $48,000 through the Recreational Trails Program for intersection improvements to Rhode Island Avenue Trolley Trail. Before I turn it over, I want to take a moment to thank our district engineer, Derek Gunn, who's here with me today, and many of you may know by working directly with him to resolve local issues. So thank you for your time, and now I want to turn it over to my colleague at the MDTA, Joey.
Thank you, Will. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joey Sagal. I was named Executive Director of the Maryland Transportation Authority, or MDTA, in August of this year. Financed by toll revenue, the MDTA is the independent state agency that finances, owns, operates, preserves, and secures Maryland's 8 toll facilities. We're investing those toll dollars right back into our world-class infrastructure for all Marylanders. The MDTA's commitment to maintaining Maryland's toll roads and bridges is paramount, as well as doing our part to watch over the millions of souls traveling those roads each day. In 2023, MDTA police officers assigned to the Inter-County Connector, or ICC detachment, arrested more than 75 drivers who were either impaired by alcohol and/or drugs, or wanted for offenses including kidnapping, harassment, and assault. The MDTA police continue to strengthen relationships with our law enforcement partners in Prince George's County. This year, MDTA police officers participated in joint traffic safety and community outreach efforts with fellow law enforcement agencies, the Prince George's County Police Department, Laurel Police Department, Maryland National Capital Park Police, Maryland State Police, and municipalities like Glenarden and Bowie. Our MDTA law enforcement professionals also attend the meetings and work with the Police Chiefs Association for Prince George's County. From the Inter-County Connector to the Bay Bridge, our roads keep Marylanders connected. So let's talk about the Bay Bridge for just a second. The Bay Bridge Crossing Tier 2 study is fully in effect right now. This is a $28 million study, the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Agency requirement, and is funded by MDTA's toll revenues. This Tier 2 study is allowing us to analyze alternatives for providing adequate capacity and access to improve travel reliability, mobility, and safety across the Bay, as well as the US 5301 corridor. This federally required study is also focusing on the selected corridor alternative, or Corridor 7 as we refer to it, that was identified from the Tier 1 study, which is the existing footprint now. Corridor 7 is 2 miles wide and runs 22 miles from the Severn River Bridge in Anne Arundel County to the US 5301 split in Queen Anne's County. The study also includes the site of our existing Bay Bridge. We held numerous public engagement activities throughout summer of 2023. It's community events, online transit and bike pedestrian listening meetings, and in-person online public meetings in September that we just concluded. We've heard that the citizens of Maryland are frustrated with congestion at the Bay Bridge and want relief from traffic jams that occur year-round. Details on this study, as well as additional opportunities which we strongly encourage to provide input, are online at baycrossingstudy.com. We also know that many Prince George's County residents utilize the Nice Middleton Bridge as well. The new, wider, and safer Nice Middleton Bridge opened to traffic in October of 2022 on budget and 3 months ahead of schedule. The $463 million project included campus improvements to support the new bridge. Those campus improvements are in the final phases of construction with anticipated completion this fall. The Maryland Transportation Authority keeps our customers connected to life's opportunities, and we will continue as an agency dedicated to innovative transportation solutions that improve connectivity, create opportunity, enhance safety, promote equity, and support economic development. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Chrissy at the Motor Vehicle Administration.
Thank you, Joey. It's a pleasure to be with you today. At MVA, customer service has always been our top priority, but we've been fortunate to have an IT modernization project that was implemented over the last few years that has enabled us to deliver even greater premier customer service, as we like to call it. Gone are the days where you need to bring that book or your lunch with you to an MVA branch office to complete your transaction. Beltsville branch office wait time was just under 9 minutes last year, and nearby Largo was at 8 minutes. Many of our branches not only provide traditional MVA services, but also provide additional government services. At the Beltsville branch office, that includes your Easy Pass stop-in center. And at Largo, we're actually now doing birth certificates to help people who need to complete a Real ID transaction and might not have that document. We're also happy to announce the installation of 2 electric vehicle charging stations at Beltsville and Largo branch office parking lots. The chargers are currently operational at Largo and are expected to be operational by early November in Beltsville. Accessibility doesn't end at the branch office, and we know our customers want to be able to do their transactions conveniently. That's why we're encouraging everybody to get your My MVA account. Last year, customers completed a total of 75% of their transactions outside of that traditional branch office relationship. As both the Secretary and Will have discussed, highway safety is clearly a focus, and we're all committed to Vision Zero. Really want to thank Prince George's County for your partnership in that effort and your focus on helping us to reach zero fatalities. Last year, 121 people lost their lives in Prince George's County. So far this year, we've lost 93 people on our roads in this county, and that's an increase of 6% from last year to this year. Unfortunately, the causes are still the same. We're seeing speeding, we're seeing impairment, lack of seatbelt use, as well as distraction. We know those are all preventable, and that's why we're really sounding the alarm and doing a call to action statewide to try to draw those numbers down. Last month, Governor Moore announced more than $227,000 in highway safety grants, and that goes to law enforcement agencies and our partner organizations here in Prince George's County. Prince George's County has really been a leader, as I said, and developed their own local strategic highway safety plan and have worked in partnership with us, and we really appreciate that collaboration. That's what's going to take to reach zero fatalities and new innovations, as the Secretary has charged us to do. In closing, I just want to thank our wonderful MVA employees. All these great accomplishments could not happen without their hard work and their great ideas, and I'm just grateful to be a member of the team with them. So thank you for your time, and now I'll pass it over to Ricky at MAA.
Thank you, Chrissy. The Maryland aviation system plays a critical role in supporting travel, tourism, and economic development. Governor Moore has spoken about the great assets we have in the state of Maryland that will ensure a dynamic, growing economy for the long term. These important assets include our public use airports across the state that generate jobs and connect residents and businesses to the global economy. One of those important airport assets is, of course, BWI Marshall Airport, which serves as a major transportation resource and economic engine for the state with an economic impact of over $9 billion annually. In terms of passenger traffic, BWI Marshall is currently at about 90% of full recovery following the pandemic. Looking ahead to the fourth quarter, airline seat capacity is up 18% from last year, and more significantly, 4% higher than the same period in 2019 prior to the pandemic. We continue to welcome new airline partners and growing international and domestic service. We are committed to working every day to make our facilities the most efficient, user-friendly airports for our customers. The Maryland Aviation Administration's capital program continues at historic high levels with a 6-year program of over $1 billion. We forecast over $330 million in capital spending for this year, with further growth in fiscal year 2025 to reach about $350 million. It is notable that we are successfully leveraging federal dollars to support our capital needs as well. Thanks to our federal delegation, we have over $280 million in anticipated federal funds programmed in the draft CTP. Throughout our capital program, we are advancing important projects that will enhance BWI Marshall for our passengers and provide important facilities for our partners. These critical improvements will shape BWI Marshall for decades to come. Across the state, the MAA continues to support 34 public use airports that serve local communities. The statewide aviation grants program supports safety projects focused on runway, taxiway, and apron needs. MAA intends to administer some $2.8 million in funding during fiscal year 2024 for regional airports across the state. This includes $200,000 in funding for College Park Airport for airfield navigational equipment and $67,000 in state funding to support tree trimming at Potomac Airport. So again, thank you, and I will hand it back to Secretary Wiedefeld.
Thank you, Ricky. And thank you for your attention. It's important, I think, for you to get a perspective both of the department statewide and also obviously what we're doing here in Prince George's County. So with that, if the council chairman would like to make any comments or turn it over to the staff.
Thank you, Secretary. I just want to thank you for joining us and coming down here to Largo, being accessible to the council, our staff, and our constituents. And I think it's probably best to turn things over to staff, and if maybe council members might have some questions after we hear from staff, we'll take questions from council members. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you, excuse me, Secretary Wiedefeld and members of your team. Thank you for coming here today to be with us. on behalf of County Executive also Brooks, we welcome you to Prince George's County. If she were here, she would say greatness grows here in Prince George's County. I want to thank you for incorporating all of the county's priorities in your FY 24 to 29 Consolidated Transportation Program. I particularly want to thank you for a couple of items in that program. I want to thank you for the excellent coordination of doing everything that you can to assist us in being awarded the FBI headquarters building. I want to commend the state for all your efforts in working with us on the Blue Line Corridor, New Carrollton, and the Penn Line TOD. Pleased to see that the Purple Line is now well into construction. And of course, I appreciate all the important improvements in the FY 24 to 29 draft. Many of these projects have been stalled for too long, and it's our hope that we will have funding associated with these as we move forward, so that we can move forward on our top 5, 6, or 7 priorities. In addition to large projects, of course, you've identified a number of small projects like median care, trash removal, other projects like the Medical Center Drive Interchange and the Maryland 4 Suitland Parkway project. And of course, something that we've been haunted with over the years, the Maryland 210 corridor. I just want to say that we look forward to working with you, to collaborating with you as we move forward over the next 5 years in our CTP strategies. I'll see if my Director of Transportation has a few remarks.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, DCAO Holt. So I'm Michael Johnson. I'm the Director of Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation. Firstly, I would like to thank Secretary Wiedefeld for his leadership across the state and stress my appreciation for the collaborative approach being taken by the new administration and this opportunity to provide our comments to the state's draft fiscal year 24 through 29 Consolidated Transportation Program. As DCAO Holt noted, the county and the department have been successful in obtaining critical federal funding, which will be essential to bringing our programs up to the next level. However, to address the transportation challenges in Prince George's County, we must continue to work arm in arm with the state to create a safer, more equitable, more aesthetically pleasing, and much more robust multimodal network that serves the need of all of our residents. The county is embarking on an exciting initiative to transform transit through the multi-pronged approach implemented over the next 5 years. As part of Prince George's County's Transit Transformation Initiative, the county is committed to transitioning our bus fleet to 100% zero emissions by 2040. To taking a new and active approach to engaging the community and prioritizing performance and the customer experience, making service changes to align with WMATA's better bus network design, and through incremental but impactful changes that will advance the county's transit vision plan. It is evident that Prince George's County is on the move, but to attain our aspirations, partnerships, particularly those with the state, will be critical to its success. Central to an enthusiastic commitment to transit is robust funding for the locally operated transit systems. That's the LOTS program, ensuring that any formula distributions or readjustments consider enabling systems to grow with equity as a central factor, with a focus to serving those who need transit the most. Investing in the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's WMATA's ability to sustain and enable a robust network, address present needs, as well as the ability to advance vital aspirational projects like the Blue, Orange, Silver study is critical to the entire region. In working together with our partners at SHA, MTA, and WMATA, we look forward to pursuing and implementing tactical bus lanes and other treatments to serve as a springboard for a high-capacity transit bus rapid transit network in the county. The county appreciates the strong working relationship in tackling the ongoing challenge of keeping both the state and county right-of-ways as clean of debris as possible. I applaud the joint approach that we've taken working with SHA, whereby we meet regularly, share best practices, and expeditiously target areas of need. While this need is ongoing, I am proud of the continued need for our collaboration. Vision Zero continues to be one of the highest priorities in the county. Unfortunately, Prince George's County consistently leads the state in pedestrian crashes and fatalities. Using data from the state, the county established a high injury network, which is ranked using the SHA Severity Index. Of the top 20 roadway sections, 19 are state roadways. Two barriers to making these roadways safer are the lack of continuous lighting and sidewalks in these sections. By placing the burden of sidewalk maintenance on others, this stymies the ability of the state to expeditiously advance improvements where they are needed the most. Similar to the approach on litter, I look forward to working with the state to reevaluate pedestrian safety methodologies and seriously address this critical safety issue and save lives in the second most populous county of the state. The Blue Line Corridor and Medical Center Drive are at the core of the county's development strategy. The county appreciates state funding towards improvements to local infrastructure for the county's Blue Line Corridor initiative and the advancing of the Medical Center Drive Bridge project. We do want to emphasize that every measure to make the bicycle and pedestrian experience as safe as possible is imperative and must be included in all of our future projects. We look forward to our continued work with MTA and the Secretary's Office on the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project with Charles County to advance the NEPA process. The Virginia DOT SEL study seems dismissive to continuity of service on the Maryland side of the region and emphasizes toll lanes. This is contrary to the county's view, and we hope MDOT's interests are in supporting solutions that advance transit equity and sustainability. The county looks forward to expeditiously advancing critical projects along MD 210, including subsequent interchanges and pedestrian safety improvements along this high crash roadway. The county appreciates the coordinated effort with the County and Parks Department to determine how best to advance and construct and maintain a shared bicycle pedestrian corridor. The county appreciates that the MD4 at Suitland Parkway is advancing into construction and looks forward to advancing this long-awaited project as expeditiously as possible. And on a final note, we are concerned with the proposed elimination of several projects from the draft FY 24 through 29 CTP, most notably the US 301 corridor study and the US 301 from US 50 to MD 197 projects. Given the priority of these projects, the county respectfully requests that these projects be kept in the CTP, if only as placeholders. Thank you very much for your time and attention to these pressing priorities of the county, and I look forward to working with each of you in making transportation in Prince George's County and Maryland as safe as possible, more equitable, more efficient, and robust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Holt, for the comments. We will continue to work in partnership with you on a number of the key issues that you just raised. I think we have a very good working relationship, but we can always work to make it better. So thank you. We'd be glad to take any other questions if any of the other council members have any or comments.
Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to work with so many of you this year, and look forward to working with you, in the coming years. There's a lot of great work being done here. And I just want to touch on a few things that I hope can be continued and worked on. some of you may have known we've been working on an act here to make our streets more pedestrian friendly around our transit areas and our established communities. But of course, and as Director Johnson noted, and all of you know, a lot of the roads where we're having pedestrian fatalities and conflicts are state roads. Some of the things that we're trying to do are eliminating slip lanes in these areas and reducing the lane widths, reducing the number of lanes that pedestrians have to cross. We want to partner with you on that. So that as we retrofit and as we rebuild in our more urban areas on the county roads, that we do the same with the state roads. So that's something that is very important to us. Thank you on the Purple Line. I know we spoke a little bit before about the maintenance of the roads during the construction. We have a lot of constituents, and I see a couple of our delegates and senators here as well, who I know share the concerns as well that our constituents are, getting their cars all banged up on those roads, and we need to get those roads fixed. Trails, we've been working on trails. I know there's a lot in the CTP on trails, and we need to continue to get people to and from transit and in other areas on our trails. There's, of course, the South Side project, which Director Johnson mentioned. We're very concerned about that, across the county. And speaking for myself, I know I'm also very concerned about Beltway expansion generally. But thank you for your work. I think, WMATA, we're also, concerned about that, and obviously the fiscal cliff that we have all been hearing about. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. Did you want to respond before I bring my concern?
Thank you. We are working very closely on the South Side issue right now, and so I think you'll be seeing more of that in the very near future.
All right, thank you, Walla Blagay, Vice Chair of the Council. I just want to thank you for coming here today. We appreciate this presentation, very comprehensive, and we do see the work that you all have been doing to support the county. I did want to bring one issue to your attention. We brought this up last week as we sent a letter to you regarding the Medical Center Drive interchange. The concerns brought to attention, especially from some of the smart growth advocates, which I understand, is that this interchange really is not, the way it's proposed at this point, does not allow for bicycle and pedestrian. It's not bicycle or pedestrian friendly. And the whole purpose that we're trying to sort of transition in Prince George's County is to make, especially our areas near our metro centers, transit oriented, to be more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. This has been something that has been a major concern in especially my district, and this is actually in my district, and we want to make sure that this interchange, the Medical Center Drive interchange, has that it is bicycle and walkable, which is important. And if it isn't, it just goes away. It moves in a different direction from making transit oriented more bikeable and walkable, so that people could actually walk the community. The plans around Medical Center Drive, especially when it comes to the biggest project, the Caroline project, is supposed to be an area where people are supposed to be able to walk around. That's sort of the purpose, is to get people out of their cars, and these interchanges are not necessarily helpful in some ways, so we want to make sure that we can actually make them more bikeable, walkable. I know there's some advocates that are going to bring this to your attention here, but it wasn't included in a letter given, so I thought to make sure to bring it to your attention here. And I would add here, and I know this isn't a focus, but there is an interchange in Westphalia in my district that is controlled by SHA that has been a complete disaster. We have gotten so many complaints almost weekly to our office regarding the implementation of this interchange. At one point, it was so dangerous. I even went over there and drove there myself. It was so dangerous. The residents were calling, pleading that if we did not get SHA or the construction to move forward to actually build that interchange or that section, and I think it's Woodyard Road. Around there, my office has actually reached out. We have been working with our state representatives, but it has gotten so dire and important, and people felt that there was immediate danger that they started to call our office. So we did reach out to SHA to make it clear to them that something needs to be done with this interchange. It's right around the Westphalia area, and it is the interchange is controlled by SHA. So we did reach out to the county. It was clear to us that the county did not have the role in this project, but this was run by the state. So if you all could please, and I will reach out to your office to meet on it, because our residents, they said that there was something going on with the contractor, which is what has stalled the project. But the last thing we need is an accident that leads to a fatal injury, and then we have to, and what residents will say is they reached out to my office. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will or Derek, want to comment?
I'll start on Medical Drive and then possibly kick it over to Derek to talk a little bit about the Woodyard Road interchange concerns there, if he knows about them. So on Medical Drive, we did receive the letter. We're still reviewing that. It came pretty recently, as you know, and we're trying to figure out how we might be able to accommodate some of the asks there, whether that be in the current project or through some type of phasing. Frankly, that we all understand the importance of delivering that project. There are a lot of mobility needs there, but we understand that we have to balance the safety and walkability. So we're looking at how, with the existing planning study as completed, how we can advance that project while also identifying opportunities to potentially phase in some of the asks that were presented in that letter. Derek, you want to take the interchange question?
Thank you, Administrator Pines. And I appreciate that question. We are aware of the Woodward intersection. That's a developer project related to some of the larger development in that area. The developer was a little bit slow in terms of mobilizing out there. And we at SHA, our maintenance forces and a few other forces have stepped in and taken some actions there to get the construction moving forward. Some of the signals, I believe there's only one signal right now that's on flash. And we're working with the developer currently to make sure that we can get that up and running. The next step, I believe in mid-October, very shortly, we'll be working on the final pavement markings out there. We have some folks in our District 3 office who live not too far from there, so they keep us apprised of the activity very carefully. But we are moving, and we're working closely with the developer community to make sure that that project is completed very soon.
Thank you. And I think Mel is next. Councilman Franklin.
Thank you. And I want to echo the gratitude for the team from MDOT being here. We had a great conversation in Summer Mako about transit, and I want to thank Secretary Wiedefeld and all the agencies that were present. You all came in force, and Holly Arnold did a great job, and I want to thank her in her absence for MTA. I do want to echo a couple of things. One, I want to say thank you for the progress you made on a number of projects. The US 1 Route 1 corridor project. It's great to see the Suitland project back and fully funded. It's really good to see the progress made on the Purple Line that we've gotten that back on track, and hopefully it stays that way. I do want to mention something in terms of the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project. You've currently proposed to program about $20 million over the next 4 years in the design and NEPA process. It's my understanding that you need $35 million to complete that process. So, one question would be, how do you plan to close that gap? Is that something you can change based on this feedback to increase that from $20 million to $35 million for the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project? So that's one question. I do also want to raise about Maryland 210. I do see that you program funds for engineering work for the next interchange, but I don't see in the 6-year CIP funds to actually complete that intersection, that next intersection on 210. So that a little concerned about that, because we know each of the interchanges is going to be expensive, but we don't want to have to wait another decade before the next interchange gets done, and I believe there are 4 interchanges that need to be done. So I'm concerned about the next interchange not being funded in the CTP 6-year plan. I'll just leave it there. I think my colleagues have covered a number of other items, but I did want to raise the specific question about Southern Maryland Rapid Transit and the concern about Maryland 210.
Thanks, sir. Liz, if you wouldn't mind, since you're
Sure.
Managing Project.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you for that comment about SMRT. So what I'd say about that is that $20 million is a really substantive contribution towards NEPA finding. Also, getting through NEPA can be a little unpredictable in terms of how much money that will take. And the reality of that project is that we haven't looked in detail at the cost estimates in some years. So what we feel is that we have this substantive amount of money to move forward. We're making really good progress with our partners at the counties and with FTA, and we're moving that forward expediently. If, as we get through the next few months of meetings, and we get through getting our team going and getting some of these cost estimates refreshed, if we find that there's more money that's needed to get that project where it needs to be, then there's time to figure that out.
Thank you, Liz. Will, on the 210?
Sure. On the 210 interchange, I'll start by thanking the county for the partnership that we have related to the casino revenues. That really helps to keep things moving. We all get it that we wish we could do more, but that certainly helps us to be able to make progress there. We do, as you mentioned, have funding allocated to help advance some of that interchange work, and we anticipate that in 2024 we will advance a 30% design and the NEPA reevaluation for part of that interchange effort. Unfortunately, that casino revenue and the agreement, it is stretched out over time. It's not like a one-time infusion to be able to do all of the interchanges at once. So where we stand now, that's about as much as we're advancing it, kind of methodically along with the revenue.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. We're just adjusting. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank also our Senate President Pro Tem, Senator Augustine, is here with us, and Delegate Ann Healy as well. Both we share territories in District 2 in the council, so I want to thank them for all their advocacy. I just wanted to bring up 2 things to you, Mr. Secretary. I represent University Boulevard, so we have a lot of Purple Line construction going on, and I appreciate the responses I've received from the Director of Governmental Affairs, but I think we just need better communication, especially when like big structures are brought to our communities before they're actually put into the ground. So they had, I'm not an engineering expert, but they were very, very large concrete square structures that were left on University Boulevard for an extremely long time, and now I'm dealing with a homeless encampment throughout all of it. And I know that the responses in email correspondence with the Director of Governmental Affairs was there was potential fencing putting in, and now they're trying to see what they can do next. But I think I'm concerned for the safety of my neighbors and community, and I live right by there. I think number 2 is the structural integrity of what was going to be placed in the ground now after you've had people living in it for up to 6 weeks, doing all kinds of things in that. So I think that MDOT and the county need to have a better communication on how long you're going to leave structures out before they're actually put into the ground for Purple Line. And I will say right now, that area of University Boulevard is just absolutely critical, not to speak for my senator, but I'm sure he would agree. The safety concerns there right now are very intense, and it's been a strain on District 1, Prince George's Police Department, in dealing with that now, and our private community actors. And then the other thing I wanted to discuss, and Councilmember Olson and I talk about it all the time, we're partners in crime in our concerns. But I think, and this might have to be a long-term discussion between us and the county, is our standards and our how our standards and what we use to think when sidewalk and walkability measures are needed. As you know, Prince George's County is fastly growing. As you know, for me directly, I'm a district that is bordering DC and Montgomery County, and the amount of our economic hubs, I would say, in this part of the county are all based on state roads. And it seems to be a struggle for our state partners. You know, they put in a study, whether it's for sidewalk or a light or anything else, and it just doesn't seem to make sense, and is not making sense in a rapid growing, your second largest jurisdiction in the state, one of your biggest economic hubs in the state, that we're struggling. Whether it's the University of Maryland on Route 1, or for me, both of my shopping transits, University Boulevard and Queens Chapel Road, it's all state highway. And I just think using standards from how many ever years ago is just not keeping up with where we are, and then adding Purple Line on top of that. So I wanted to have a conversation. Riggs Road in general needs sidewalk the entire way. I know that we've put that in our letter, but it's just hard to see children in the street on the side of grass. I've walked it myself, and they're not safe, and bus stops that are not safe. And I think if the county could do the lift and we could do it on our own, we would at this point. But all of Riggs Road is state, and we need you, and we need sidewalk, and Prince George's County deserves sidewalk. And I don't think this council is going to rest till we get sidewalk. At least I won't. And it's just really critical and sad, and to even put more a point on it, selfishly for my district, you're talking about communities of color. You're talking about Black and brown children that are left to walk in the street compared to other communities. And I just think that visual does not align with the Moore Miller administration and their promise and commitment to Prince George's County. So this needs to be absolutely critical to me, and I think to everyone here, about where our children are walking and their safety. And I've had two, especially in the Latino community recently, we've had 2 motor vehicle accidents happen with children on state roads getting to school. And it's just coming to a point where, we don't have the answers to face our community like this anymore. So I just wanted to bring it up in this forum for you to be focused on. So those are my 2 things. I have a ton of other things, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll get right on the communication issues with our contractor and the Purple Line. Just make sure that we're aware of it so that we get better communication out. And I'll definitely have them look at the condition of those that equipment and make sure there's no issues there. In terms of the sidewalk, yes, we are committed to it. That's why I mentioned earlier that we're taking a whole look at how we do all that, and to rethink, as we develop any state highway, either retrofitting or any new facility, that we incorporate both bicycle and pedestrian access as part of that thinking. So, but yes, we need to work together on that to make sure that we're hitting the hot issues first, but we also just have to it has to be part of the culture, and that's what we're trying to get to.
I believe we have Ms. Ivy and Mr. Hawkins, you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here today. We do appreciate it. A couple things I just want to emphasize. I believe it was Director Johnson who spoke up against the toll lanes, and just want to back him up on that. Prince George's County is against toll lanes, and we want to make sure that they don't come to Prince George's County. I wanted to reiterate what Ms. Blagay was saying about the I-95, 495 interchange at Medical Center Drive. A huge issue for pedestrian and bike safety. I hear a lot of us speaking about how important Vision Zero is, but then if you set up a situation that is going to require people almost to put themselves in harm's way to get across the road, then we're not truly taking that seriously. And in that same way, protected bike lanes, not buffered, not those bike lanes with some paint on the ground that says this is where you run over the bicyclist. You need to have them be protected so people like me, who's not really a huge bicyclist, would feel comfortable getting out on the road on my bike. We need everybody to be using other modes of transportation, and the only way that's going to happen is if people feel safe. And you do not feel safe, and you are not safe if you're out on the road in in a lane that just has paint on the ground to tell people this is where you're supposed to be if you're a bike. It doesn't work. We just talked about how distracted drivers are these days. So the reality is, if we care about pedestrian and bicycle safety, we have to care about actually protecting them with protected lanes, not the buffered ones. And I feel like I had one more thing to say. I think I'll just end by saying Rick Chagot, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. He's the bomb. I love him. He's been so responsive. He's been so great about coming out when we need him to kind of fix up an industrial area in my district that has been really a target for litter, illegal dumping, and just basically not looking nice. And it's right where Prince George's County and DC kind of meet, you know, where people come off of 50 into the county. We don't want it to look like that. And he's been a really great partner in that. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and for Derek's entire team. They do a fantastic job. They have a lot to do, but we try to be as responsive as we possibly can, so thank you.
Thank you all for your very informative presentation. Mr. Secretary, is it someone that Council Member Ed Burrows and I could speak with? This past week we met, and we have been meeting with citizens along the 210 corridor. Councilmember Franklin referenced one of the traffic exchanges, but they're also concerned about the number of fatalities and the speeding. We've been working with the county officials, and if we could have someone from your office that we could follow up with to further, and they may already be, that person may already be involved, but if Councilmember Burrows and I, along with our work with the county, could speak with that person to follow up on some of the concerns and how we could work together. Secondly, I'm gonna throw two bombs at you. Well, not really. What is your position on the med lift? And you all didn't speak about it, but how are you keeping up the memorial to that great Maryland citizen, Thurgood Marshall, at the BWI Library? We take students down there every year, and I would like to say that when we do, and Mr. Smith knows about it, he comes and talks to the individuals, and those students leave more committed to be on the right side of justice instead of the wrong side. And these are wayward kids, and I just want to publicly say one of your members, Ricky Smith, has been a great asset in inspiring those young people to become more than just irresponsible young people, but become responsible adults. So I wanted to thank him, and I want to thank your team for all that you're doing, not just in Prince George's County, but around the state.
Thanks, sir. Yes, we'll set that meeting. I'll follow up directly with you to make sure we have that meeting set up. In terms of maglev, right now the Federal Rail Administration and the contractor are going through their final environmental document. I think they had 30,000 comments that they've got to review. So that's what's going on in that process. So we have to let that process play out. And Ricky, I don't know if you want to make any comments on the
I just want to say thank you, Chair.
Ricky and I both have a long history with this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hawkins, for raising the issues of concern around 210. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. I also want to join my colleagues in expressing deep concern related to the Southside Express project. Oftentimes when VDOT, they have their meetings at Oxon Hill High School. I went last year. There were probably about 5 residents there, if that, because they were unaware. The most recent meeting they had at Oxon Hill High School, I spoke with one of our state delegates, Jamila Woods. She said the same thing. It was probably less than 5 constituents there. If there are going to be these meetings. I'm happy to help publicize them to the impacted community. I represent that district. But I can tell you that we are not in support of what's currently being proposed. And secondly, I just wanted to lift up and express appreciation for the project labor agreement on the Purple Line. It's so important that we continue to push these project labor agreements. We know that they have the ability to pull people out of poverty and into the middle class with health care, benefits, protections against wage theft. And so I want to thank, I don't know who made the decision to resume that up there, but I do want to uplift that.
Thank you. I mean, we are in, I think, lockstep with you on the Woodrow Wilson, that whole issue with VDOT. I recently spoke to the secretary there, expressing our concerns, both from making sure the communication with the community, but more importantly, that we are committed to a multimodal connection across that bridge. And that's what we look forward to seeing someday.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I want to say thank you for your very informative presentation. I certainly learned a lot, and I appreciate all that you all do. I just really want to, definitely advocate for the priorities that are in my district, and specifically the ones that are for Bowie, the city of Bowie. And of course, their highest priority has been for years, Maryland 197, Collington Road between Ken Hill Drive and Maryland 450. Just want to make sure, and I know they've outlined it very well in a letter to you, but I want to make sure that certainly their top priorities are definitely heavily considered this year. Bowie it continues to grow, as does Greenbelt. And so both are very concerned, of course, about pedestrian safety. We've got sidewalks going in, which I'm very happy to see. Definitely want to see, increased movement on the trails and bicycle safety as well. So I appreciate it. Again, also want to say thank you so much for what you do as far as the litter is concerned. That's a big concern for me. Recently had a cleanup in my district, and I had many members of the community come out because they see the need for that. And I think it's more of an awareness that needs to continue, so people understand that it's something that we need to continue following up on, because we just see it happening so much. And I think people are just trashing our communities and not thinking about the consequences. So, I mean, I'm personally going to take that on, certainly in my district, as an awareness to continue to keep reminding residents, what the implications of litter are. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, just to wrap up, while you're working on your maglev position, just to clarify, the county councils are very strongly opposed to the maglev, in case that was not obvious. And Mr. Olson, I would just make the point that you're doing a great job on Route 1, Phase 1. It's really changing downtown College Park. It'd be nice to get that further north, particularly to Phase 3, which Lord knows when that's going to happen. But that's definitely it's one of the top priorities in the county. So we would appreciate further gains. So thank you, and I guess I'll turn it back to you. And I think we have a lot of speakers signed up. I think Mr. Battle has the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Secretary. We have 7 individuals who signed up in advance to speak, and another 3 who have signed up here today. So we'll get the list started with Mr. Seth Grimes, followed by Cheryl Court and Nicholas Orick.
Did you want to mention there's a time limit for the speakers, Mr. Battle?
Thank you very much. And you see there's a 3-minute limit, and our wonderful council member Watson has agreed to work the clock for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Battle. Distinguished State of Maryland, Prince George's County officials, thanks very much for the opportunity to comment. I am Seth Grimes with the Washington Area Bicyclist Association. We are a nonprofit active in Prince George's and Montgomery counties, and throughout the Washington, D.C. area, and we envision a just and sustainable transportation system where walking, biking, and transit are the best ways to get around. It has been very encouraging to hear from you already in your remarks many of the points that I'm going to be talking about in my prepared remarks, starting with that as of this morning, October 10th, Prince George's County, Ms. Nizer has experienced not 93, but 94 roadway fatalities according to the Zero Deaths Maryland website, for which we thank you. It's great to have data available. That includes 23 pedestrian deaths and 3 bicyclists, and the county is on a pace to match the 121 road deaths last year in 2022. If we are to meet our state and county Vision Zero commitments, we must do better. We must redesign our transportation system, our roads, to elevate safety and mobility over rapid passage of motor vehicles. How can we do that? The Consolidated Transportation Program, as the saying goes, a budget reflects our values. It reflects our values, and it does not adequately prioritize safety. Secretary Wiedefeld, your number 1 point, over rapidly moving vehicles. My first prepared point is Medical Center Drive interchange with the Beltway. We do not like it. Specifically, the 3 State Highway Administration proposed designs, over $99 million, feature, for instance, a diverging diamond interchange, which greatly multiplies the number of pedestrian and bicyclist crossings. Yes, in theory, those crossings will be signalized for cars stopping, but the reality is that cars don't always obey signals, and it's simply dangerous. But there's a fundamental problem underlying the design there and other designs that the state has put forward, which is the metrics that you are using, the ways that you are measuring are antiquated. For instance, you will see at multiple points in the Consolidated Transportation Program document the use of vehicle miles per day, vehicles per day traffic, increases in vehicles per day. That's not moving people, that's moving cars. We need to change that as the way that you evaluate these projects. So we do want to talk about those projects. We do want a change to the Medical Center Drive interchange. What you have there now is more favorable, much safer for pedestrians and bicyclists both. Let's talk about a few other projects. Another one was mentioned earlier in the context of the Blue Line corridor. You have the Central Avenue Connector Trail. That is a really good thing. In this case, also how you treat the crossing of the Beltway to connect where we are now, Largo, with the other Blue Line stations. The totality of the Blue Line corridor with this trail is really critical. The first phase of the project is slated to go over Medical Center Drive, and you need to improve there, and that especially for Central Avenue, Maryland 214. I guess I'm out of time. I will send in my prepared remarks to you all, but I am very encouraged by the words that I'm hearing. Now let's work together to make them reality.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Court. I'm with the nonprofit called Coalition for Smarter Growth. We're working to advocate for walkable, bikeable, inclusive, transit-oriented communities as the most sustainable and equitable way for the Washington, D.C. region to grow and provide opportunities for all. We work extensively in suburban Maryland, focused on Prince George's and Montgomery counties. We want first to urge the MDOT and the county to recognize that we have the ability to flex 50% of federal funds allowed under federal law through programs such as Transportation Block Grants and National Highway Performance Program. These can go to transit, safer streets, bicycle, pedestrian project, transit vehicle electrification, and we urge the state to do more of that. Instead of building bigger and wider highways, we should make the most effective use of what we've already built and retrofit it to accommodate more sustainable modes of transportation. We want to echo the statements made in the Prince George's County priority letter, highlighting the need to build on the priorities of the Vision Zero policy, including re-engineering roadways with critical tools such as protected bike lanes and road diets, reducing the number of travel lanes to ensure that all users can safely use these facilities. We also want to urge the state to reverse its policy for not maintaining state sidewalks and maintain state sidewalks as a part of state roadways. We concur with the concern that 19 of 20 of the roads in Prince George's County that have in the high injury network are state roads, and we ask for expedited planning and construction to slow down hazardous roads and build safe multimodal facilities. We also wanted to note that I don't need to tell Secretary Wiedefeld this, but WMATA's fiscal cliff is deeply concerning to us, and we urge the state to step up and lead. It's a critical problem that in the short term is an operating budget shortfall, but in the long term or medium term is a capital budget shortfall. And last, I wanted to mention the Medical Center Drive interchange. We believe that this massive, complex, high-speed interchange is really at odds with the vision for a walkable downtown Largo and connectivity to the stadium area. We think it will degrade the walk and bike access that is the only access provided across 495 for the 3 interchanges that actually serve downtown Largo with Maryland 202, Maryland 214. Neither of them even have a sidewalk. A Medical Center Drive has a sidewalk, but it's not something that you would use unless you had no other choice. So we would like these facilities to be connecting, not dividing these important destinations in Prince George's, and there are, and we'll submit more detailed comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for agreeing to meet with us. My name is Nick Orick. I live in Riverdale, Maryland. I will get right to the point. I am against widening the Beltway, especially putting toll lanes on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. The bridge was designed and built to carry rail transit lines, and it should be used for that. We are in the midst of a climate crisis. It is nice to have climate goals, but what is the point if we don't do the right things to attain those goals and even improve on them, and stop doing those things that make things worse, such as building more highways, which encourage more automobile travel, producing more pollution, while not solving the congestion problem. To relieve congestion, we need to reduce vehicle miles traveled, reduce the need for travel with better planning, provide better transit options, make neighborhoods more friendly to pedestrians and bicycles. Thanks again for your valuable time. If you would like to discuss this in more detail, please contact me and we can arrange a meeting. I do have a few questions. There is a rail line that runs from Bowie to La Plata. Has it been considered for passenger service? Number 2 is, I understand from a rail friend of mine that the VRE and MARC handle wheelchair occupants differently. I was wondering if run-through travel would create a problem with that, and if it had been addressed or resolved. And finally, when are we going to get electric locomotives on the Penn line from MARC? It would be great if you could answer.
If you could, let us get back to you with answer to all 3 of those. The short answer on the Popes Creek branch, right, is the one that has, that's the one down to La Plata, was looked at in the past. We can get more information on the electric on the locomotives. I know we're moving that direction. I just don't have the schedule off the top of my head. And the third issue, I'm sorry, on the I've got to look into that one. The VRE and the MARC, I wasn't aware of that. First I've heard of that. I don't know if you've heard of that issue.
So how those 2 services handle passengers with physical accessibility needs isn't something that we've gotten into that level of detail yet, but it would be something that would be worked out.
Yeah, so a real friend of mine said that there's a big issue there and it needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So our next 3 speakers are Mr. Brad Frome, Barbara Kufal, I believe, and Lindsay Mendelson. Anyone else here? I want to see some.
Thanks very much. My name is Barbara Sofel, and I'm chair of Citizens Against Beltway Expansion, a community organization opposed to the South Side Express lanes and the I-495, I-270 toll lanes in Montgomery County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The Virginia Department of Transportation classifies the South Side toll lanes as a mega project, yet it is not conducting a full environmental impact statement. Instead, it's conducting a less intensive environmental assessment, which means that the public won't know the full impacts of the project on the environment and their communities. The South Side toll lanes would move a bottleneck in Springfield to Oxon Hill. Severe congestion is created where toll lanes end and toll lane traffic merges into general lanes. The South Side toll lanes would shift a choke point from Springfield, where toll lanes currently end, to Oxon Hill, worsening congestion in Prince George's County. Toll lanes would crowd out Metro's Blue Line extension over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. As you know, Metro is studying a plan to extend the Blue Line across the bridge to National Harbor and eventually to other points in the county. But the toll lanes would take up the space on the bridge reserved for rail. VDOT claims that toll lanes could be converted to rail in the future. That's not believable, that Transurban would agree to build and then give up toll lanes. Toll lanes do not reduce congestion in general lanes. The environmental impact statement prepared for the I-495 and I-270 toll lanes in Montgomery County showed that the toll lanes would actually lengthen round-trip rush hour commutes for those using the general lanes between the American Legion Bridge and Gaithersburg. In a November 2021 letter to MDOT, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission stated, and I quote, "The preferred alternative does not eliminate congestion in the corridors studied, but instead shifts it from the vicinity of the American Legion Bridge to other areas in Maryland," end quote. They went on to state that the project would increase congestion on the inner loop in Prince George's County. Toll lanes on the Beltway in Prince George's County and on the Beltway and I-270 in Montgomery County won't resolve congestion and should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you, MDOT and the Prince George's County Council. My name is Lindsay Mendelson, and I'm the transportation representative of the Maryland Sierra Club and a resident of Hyattsville, Maryland. And I'm commenting today on behalf of the Prince George's County Sierra Club. Like other speakers today, we are asking MDOT to cancel the 495 and 270 toll lanes proposal and the 495 Express project, and encourage the County Council to do everything that they can to protect Prince George's County residents from this project. And thank you to the council members who have expressed concerns. To address congestion, improve mobility, and protect our climate, we urge the County Council to consider instead the alternatives described in a letter that we sent with 30 other organizations in June 2023. This includes funding the WMATA Better Bus Design Visionary Network, completing the Purple Line, supporting transit-oriented development, completing the Capitol Trails Network, halting plans for state and county road expansions that feed the Beltway, investing in bus rapid transit, and increasing access to housing and jobs by transit. We are deeply disappointed by the state's recent announcement that it's seeking a $2.4 billion federal grant and proposes $800 million in state funds to advance former Governor Hogan's defective plan to widen 495 and 270 with toll lanes. The plan is overwhelmingly highway focused, and the grant, if awarded, is proposed to use less than 3% of the funds to transit projects. At the same time, we're also concerned that the 495 Southside project proposed from Springfield, Virginia to Oxon Hill, Maryland would complicate, if not preclude, the extension of Metro Rail and provide right-of-way for the Metro Rail extension. It's not clear how such an extension could be built if express lanes were constructed under a long-term concession agreement. As Cheryl Court also mentioned, federal funds give, there's flexibility right now to utilize 50% of the large surface block transportation grants and National Highway Performance Program to flex towards these types of transit projects. The toll lanes expansion project would lock in decades of fossil fuel infrastructure, making it harder for our region to reduce car trips and meet our climate targets. After enduring years of constructions, Marylanders would suffer the consequences of more sprawl, unhealthy air pollution, and destruction of our forest canopy, and more runoff pollution in our local waterways and the Chesapeake Bay. The current proposal would also deepen racial and economic inequities by making drivers in the non-toll lanes sit in worse traffic to reach jobs concentrated in the western part of the region. In summary, we ask MDOT to cancel the 495 and 270 project, the I-495 South Side Express project, and encourage the County Council to do everything they can to decrease traffic congestion, air pollution, and other environmental impacts by investing in projects that will decrease vehicle miles traveled. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Yuri Borowski, Bill Orleans, Chuck Porcari, and our final speaker will be Senator Malcolm Augustine. Any of those people?
Good afternoon, Chairman. Sorry, not Chairman. I represent myself. I'm a resident, not representing an organization. I just live across the Beltway here. So I'm here to kind of speak on behalf of my family and my child and how her future in this county will look like. I've heard a lot of really encouraging statements today, so I try to refumble my remarks here. Let me just start by saying the reason I ended up moving to this neighborhood because we own a house under $500,000 that was also under 1 mile walk from a metro, and Blue Line Corridor was beautiful, even before the Blue Line Corridor was announced. And I think what brings me to speak today is to highlight that seems the disconnect in the state high administration going about doing its business between Largo Blue Line Station and the other 3 stations, and the overall vision for the walkable community. I was at the SHA hearings and looked at the 3 alternatives and thought it is going to be a very slow crossing the Beltway, and it's going to increase the number of opportunities for me to die under a vehicle running a red light significantly. I also took a scooter today, still enjoying the opportunity to, not just the good weather, but also the opportunity to cross the Beltway reasonably safe-ish. I would also like to point out that I believe roads are to connect communities and not to be artificial man-made barriers between communities. And I think that we can build all the affordable housing and provide all kinds of financial support to our neighbors, but if we make it mandatory to spend $48,000 average price of new vehicle, or you can buy a cheap vehicle and spend that money on maintenance and eschew the sales tax, that is a major barrier to finance. I'll be honest, when we were paying our down payment for the house, we were no way to finance a new car with our credit score or with cash. We bought a beat up old Honda, which got to qualify for historic plates next year. We also drive it like it's a historic car, generally about 3,000 miles a year, because we're trying to get everywhere by metro, but we have to cross the bay to go grocery store. 2 of my local coffee shops are the Starbucks on this side of the Beltway, and Councilmember Blanquet has a really good point. They're neighbors. They got a lot of good business that we want to patronize from Ivy's district, and hopefully our district will catch up with the Blue Line financing, so their neighbors will come to patronize us. And right now, the only way to cross the Beltway for 7.3 miles across is the exit 16, the Arena Medical Center Drive. And I know this project has been mentioned so many times like it's a dead horse today, but the reason it keeps coming up and up and up in today's hearing is just illustration of how state highway administration continues to go doing business like it's the 50s out there. Right? I mean, to be fair, I drive a lot because I have to. That's why we bought the vehicle when we moved to the county. But I would like to have an opportunity to not drive. I don't advocate that every disabled, elderly, and newborn has to be on a bicycle. I'm just advocating those of us who are still able should be able to do that safely without putting our life in danger. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Bill Orleans. 10 years ago, I thought I might live long enough to ride the inaugural run of the Purple Line. But these days, I'm not so certain that I will. Why I might not should be the subject of discussion, both within the roadshow and at county council meetings and among us all. This is the 3rd administration, gubernatorial administration, since the plans for the Purple Line were completed. including a very, very bad build-out process, but nonetheless completed. And in all that time, there have been no publicly released plans for continuing the Purple Line to the Wilson Bridge. When that has been raised, I at least have been assured that the county planning department or the planners in MDOT are considering it, but there's been no public discussion of it. I would call upon the secretary today and MDOT and the county planning department to jumpstart those plans for continuing the Purple Line to the Wilson Bridge, so we wouldn't have to deal with the potential for transurban lanes. This meeting today, toll lanes. This meeting today started 21 minutes late, and for the first 32 minutes, the secretary and the modal administrators were telling us what a good job they're doing. I'm happy to hear that you're doing a good job. Thank you. But you shouldn't be lauding yourself. This is a meeting where the roadshow where we would talk in detail about these proposed projects. Apparently that's not going to occur today, or if it is, I don't have time to wait for it. I got to get out of here. With regard to the Washington office, when I returned to Maryland nearly 20 years ago, I was happy to learn that the Washington Suburban Transit District existed, and happier to learn that it was enabled by statute to conduct forums. I whine about the lack of forums being for many, many, many years, and then about 6 or maybe 8 years ago, finally, the Washington Suburban Transit Commission started having forums. Very badly designed. Mostly it was the modal administrators telling us what a good job they're doing. Very little time for the public actually to engage in a colloquy about the state of transit within the Washington Suburban Transit District. But recently I've learned that either the staff of the Washington office or maybe some of the commissioners themselves, because it's not required by statute, they're thinking that there's no need to have it. Bollocks. A precedent was established 8 years ago. The pandemic interfered with it, but annually, substantially noticed, there should be ample time for there to be a forum for the public to engage with MDOT and the Washington office and WMATA and the two counties' departments of transportation, or in our case, we don't have one, the Department of Public Works and Transportation, about our transit and transportation needs. Lastly, I don't know how much time I have left. For years, I've been suggesting that there should be greater use made of the traditional taxi cab or its more modern digital replicants, Uber and Lyft, et cetera. Taxis, an automobile that's not privately owned, a public automobile, could serve a much greater role facilitating transit throughout our region if we only applied ourselves to that end. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chuck Porcari. I'm a Cheverly resident and a member of one of the 5 Prince Georgians who are working on the Cheverly Hospital redevelopment project. I would also add serve in a volunteer role as the board chair of the Maryland League of Conservation Voters Education Fund. I'd like to thank SHA for your work on the 450-202 bicycle project, and I would like to reiterate my support for Councilwoman Ivy and her call for protected lanes. As a father of 2, I think that's really a must-do. In addition to the 202-450 bike study, we would like to request, or I would like to request, the design and construction funding for a connection on the west side of Cheverly. SHA is currently conducting a supplemental feasibility study for this option, which we are confident will meet all requirements. This route was looked at as part of the master plan development that Tool Design Group did some years ago. This route off the west side is located in a critical state designated pedestrian safety priority area. This connection will provide an all-important connectivity to one of the county's priority development projects, the redevelopment of Hospital Hill. This route comes off of Lydell Road, goes north on Kenilworth Avenue, protected by Jersey barriers, and then to 52nd Street, directly to the Anacostia Trail. With the District of Columbia replacing the Route 50 bridge with a bike-friendly option, this connection would allow westward linkages with the Dakota Crossing and Brooklyn Catholic U areas and beyond. Southward, this option will connect us to Nationals Park and eventually the National Harbor via the trail system under development. Fully funding design and construction of these 2 trail options from the Cheverly to the Anacostia Trail system will open and improve safe access not only for Cheverly residents, but for thousands of Prince Georges north and south of us, as well as strong access for DC residents looking to spend time and money in Prince George's County. These connections will also improve pedestrian, bicycle, and even vehicle safety on two currently challenging roadways and this is a top priority. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Secretary Wiedefeld. It's good to see you again. Chair Dernoga, thank you. Good to see you all. Senator Malcolm Augustine. Two things that I just didn't hear a reply to, Secretary. One was the removal from the D&E of those projects for the 301, particularly those projects that were in there that have been removed from the CPT. Why? Mm-hmm. Okay, as he's trying to find, as he's trying to find that, I do want to know why that would happen. The second thing is, and maybe you all can help me out with this. As I look at the budget, as it read it, there seems to be in the current year even a little bit of a reduction on the pedestrian budget allocation versus previous, and bigger numbers further out, which is fine, but I would hope that we would see a commitment to pedestrian safety and those things in the current budget year. And I just would like to understand what's kind of going on with why, and maybe I'm misreading it, but why that's happening in the way that it's happening.
Yeah, let me look into that. It could be a cash flow issue of when, where we have projects and when we think the cash is going to flow for those projects. But let me look further into it and give a definitive answer if I could, just to make sure I got it right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm kind of there on the 301 issue as well. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get back to you. I don't have a detailed response on that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you all for your attention and time. Obviously, a lot going on in the county, and I think we're on the same page on a lot of it, and we're going to continue to work very hard to deliver the projects that we've committed to.
Thank you so much for bringing your team out, Secretary. We appreciate it, and I'm sure you've heard a lot today. Thank you so much.